Greetings and welcome to Sacred Grounds Mindful Bible Study. This is Fresh Green Blessings and I'm Parson Michael. So glad to have you here today. Today is April 30th and we're going to be studying one of the Psalms, Psalm 132, and we'll have a selection from the Gospel of Mark, Mark chapter 10 today. And for those of you who may or may not be familiar with us, we are Sacred Ground. You can learn more about us at theholynow.org. We are a melding of traditions, bringing together the beneficial teachings of Buddhism, Christianity, and earth-centered spirituality. And our aspiration here for this particular program, for Fresh Green Blessings, is to read the Bible anew, to treat this as sacred text, and at the same time to draw from a wider spirituality as we engage the text. So without further ado, I will invite the bell to sound, as I almost always do. And this bell is a mindfulness bell, Tibetan singing bowl, and the invitation, and everything is always only an invite. The invitation is to simply enjoy the sound of this bell in this moment. So you're invited to enjoy. As we usually do with Fresh Green Blessings, I'm going to begin by inviting people to join me in meditation, join me in a little mindfulness practice. And before we go any further, I should mention that you are, I'm just shifting over so I can view the screen a little better. You are invited to share with us. There's a comment section or chat, and you're invited to share with us today as we're doing the program. Sorry. Let's see here. There we go. You're invited to share with us, and I will try to pay attention to any notes in the chat, but I will say sometimes I miss them, so if I do, please have patience with me as we go along here. You also might hear the train in the background. I'm sitting by the bay window. I can see the train passing by, so we sometimes have a little extraneous noise, but that's just all part of the deal. So I'm going to invite the bell to sound again, and then we'll move into meditation. Going back to my memory of a younger version of myself, I can remember the word meditation sounding kind of overwhelming. Like, ooh, to meditate. And I picture these people sitting perfectly still, very serious, and those images need not be inaccurate, but I think it can also be a little bit limiting. I want to invite you into a bit of playfulness, into presence, yes, but our aspiration is joyful presence. So sometimes it might be a little smile, maybe not, but that certainly is an option. And I often will close my eyes, but it's about relaxing into this moment. You might want to have your gaze going down at an angle in front of you. I'm actually going to slip off. I've got my sandals on. I'm going to slip those off, get a little closer to the earth here. Get my feet on the floor of the room, at least the floor of the carpet. And I invite you to notice your in-breath and your out-breath. If possible, if you don't have a stuffy nose, I invite you to breathe through your nose. Breathing in, breathing out. You can let those shoulders go up and down a little bit. Breathing in, breathing out. You might want to even exaggerate that this time. Breathing in, breathing out. Start to notice where you might be holding, where you might have a little tension, a little stress. Breathing in deeply. Breathing out slowly. Breathing in deeply. Breathing out slowly. Some of the words I'm using I'm drawing from the teacher, the late Vietnamese Zen Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh. Breathing in calmly. Breathing out, relax. Give a little sigh on that relax. Breathing in calmly. Breathing out, relax. Breathing in, awake. Breathing out, release. And again, if you think of like your hands gripping, it might be your lower back, it might be your hamstrings, but wherever that gripping is, just think of beginning to release. Breathing in, awake. Breathing out, release. Awake. Release. Breathing in kindness. Breathing out calmness. Kindness. Calmness. Breathing in solid posture. Breathing out stable body. Solid posture. Stable body. Breathing in solid posture. Breathing out stable mind. And just imagine this energy flow up and down your back, your spine, your neck, through the top of your head, through the tip of your tailbone into the ground, into the sky. Breathing in solid posture. Breathing out stable mind. That energy way beyond you. Solid posture. Stable mind. Breathing in, dwelling in this present moment. Breathing out, and this is a wonderful moment. In present, out, wonderful. In present, out, wonderful. We'll just have a couple moments of silence here. So this is the second series of Fresh Green Blessings. In the fall, we went through a number of Psalms, and we went through the Gospel of Luke. And here we're going through some different Psalms and going through the Gospel of Mark. And so this will be Series 2, but I'll call it actually Series 2A, because this is actually going to be the last episode of this spring series. And we'll come back, I hope, in the fall, in September, for 2B. And we'll finish up the Gospel of Mark, and we'll pick up with the Psalms right where we left off. So today, here on the last day of April 2025, we're going to have a focus on Mark chapter 10 and Psalm 132. And my aspiration, my hope is that we can come back in September and we'll pick up right with Mark chapter 11 and Psalm 133, and then go through the end of the Gospel of Mark before picking up our next session. So this is the last one for this round. And as we've been doing this melding of meditation, mindfulness practice. Sometimes I'll bring in something from earth-centered tradition, from eco-spirituality. Sometimes I bring in something from Buddhist tradition. Sometimes we just talk about the Bible itself. And we try to speak of the verses and what relevance, what importance, what value they may have for us. We sometimes are wrestling or even in argument with some of the verses. Sometimes we're just exploring and trying to understand. And oftentimes, especially I'll go through this little reading where I don't even know what I'm going to say next. I, of course, prepare for this. I think about it ahead of time quite a bit. But I also want to allow for the movement of the Spirit in the moment. And things go in directions almost every time that I don't anticipate. And I actually think that's a strength of this. So today we have Psalm 132. And I'm going to give you a little background on this one because it's kind of a challenging one, I think. It's a little bit longer than some of the Psalms we've been reading. And we're going to hear about David and the Ark of the Covenant. And it's like, well, what's going on here? Well, I oftentimes refer to the Interpreter's Bible. I have this collection from the 1950s, and this book written in the Psalms, which actually came out in 1955. And we have some interpretation by two different authors, William Taylor and Frank Ballard. And they both speak of this psalm as probably being part of a liturgical drama, a reenactment. And there's a story in the second book of Samuel of David bringing the Ark of the Covenant back, which you hear of the Ark of the Covenant way back in Exodus, etc. And he's bringing the Ark of the Covenant back and dancing before it and this sort of thing. And so here we have this reenactment, perhaps by the current king. It's suggested that this goes back pretty far, about 600 BCE, around that time period, they think. And they think that this psalm was probably used or possibly used as part of a procession. Bringing the ark back, pause, say some of these words, maybe the king or the stand-in for the king, and then the chorus responding. And so it's part of a liturgy. It's part of a ceremony. And that kind of helps with the meaning. And then I think for us, one of the questions then is, well, how is this relevant? How does this relate to us? So I read this, Psalm 132. When I read it a while back, I'm like, geez, I don't know what to make of this. But then when I looked at this kind of breakdown, it made more sense to me. And I don't always want to go to what the so-called experts say about a text. And, they don't know for sure. But it kind of gave me a way of looking at this psalm that I think is useful or helpful. So I'm going to share a little bit about this or from this. And you will find, and this is not necessarily unusual, but in this psalm, you'll find there's solo parts where we're going to hear about I. And then there's going to hear these other parts, which can be considered more choral parts, where there's this we, and you can envision a group saying or singing the words. And then we're going to have I again, and we're going to have it be the voice of God, or the voice of the Lord, or maybe the voice of the prophet speaking for the Lord. So I'm going to go through, we have the King James Version and New Revised Standard Version, and I'll talk a little bit about each section as I share it. So first we're going to share sections 1 through 5, and the idea is that this is David or the king coming in and the reenactment bringing the ark back, back to Zion. So I'll go ahead and ring the bell, and then we'll have, this is probably the voice of one person singing or saying this part. And I'll share the New Revised and the King James. Maybe the King James first today. Psalm 132, a song of degrees. Lord, remember David and all his afflictions, how he sware unto the Lord and vowed unto the mighty God of Jacob. Surely I will not come into the tabernacle of my house, nor go up into my bed. I will not give sleep to mine eye, or slumber to mine eyelids, until I find out a place for the Lord, a habitation for the mighty God of Jacob. O Lord, remember in David's favor all the hardships he endured, how he swore to the Lord and vowed to the mighty one of Jacob, I will not enter my house or get into my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids until I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the mighty one of Jacob. And it's suggested that this might have done as part of a procession with pauses where these words were spoken. And next, we'll have verses 6 and 7, and this is the choir representing David and his men in search for the ark. Lo, we heard of it at Ephratah. We found it in the fields of the wood. We will go into his tabernacles. We will worship at his footstool. We heard of it in Ephratah. We found it in the fields of Jaar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. And now with verses 8 and 9, the procession is prepared to move toward the gates of Zion and the temple. And it's almost as if Yahweh must be addressed in kind of, because we have to think of this old idea of the Ark of the Covenant. This is a place where the Ten Commandments that Moses brought down are supposed to be. This is a place where God is supposed to dwell. So there's this melding of the Ark and God and understanding, kind of a physical form that gives people a sense of this presence, of this unnameable, untouchable presence. Yet here is this sacred something that can be touched. Not touched. That's dangerous. One of the men in 2 Samuel touches this and immediately dies. So there's this idea of the sacred right here with us, and now it's as if the people are speaking to the Lord. Arise, O Lord, into thy rest, thou and the ark of thy strength. Let thy priests be clothed with righteousness, and let thy saints shout for joy. Rise up, O Lord, and go to your resting place. You and the ark of your might, let your priests be clothed with righteousness, and let your faithful shout for joy. And so you have this whole ritual of bringing this ark into the temple. And then we have just a single line, verse 10. And here we're now at, as the story perhaps goes, here we're now at the courts of the temple after the arrival of the procession. And the king offering sacrifice and a prayer for divine favor. For thy servant David's sake, turn not away the face of thine anointed. The anointed one is the king. For your servant David's sake, do not turn away the face of your anointed one. And now we move into this other mode. For now, there's an oracle. This is both, as it's written here, both a promise and sort of a warning. And this is very similar to the voice of Nathan, who is an advisor to David, the prophet Nathan. The Lord has sworn in truth unto David. He will not turn from it. Of the fruit of thy body will I set upon thy throne. If thy children will keep my covenant and my testimony that I shall teach them, their children shall also sit upon my throne forevermore. So here we have the Davidic line, which is going to continue in Christian tradition all the way to Jesus. And again, these words. The Lord swore to David a sure oath, from which he will not turn back. One of the sons of your body I will set on your throne. If your sons keep my covenant and my decrees that I shall teach them, their sons also, forevermore, shall sit on your throne. And finally, after these words to the king, we have a second oracle. And with this, the idea is that the ark has been set in its place in Zion, and the Lord has come with his ark into the temple. And the oracle, the voice of the Lord, we now hear. So a representative speaking for the Lord, speaking for God. For the Lord hath chosen Zion, he hath desired it for his habitation. This is my rest forever. Here will I dwell, for I have desired it. I will abundantly bless her provision. I will satisfy her poor with bread. I will also clothe her priests with salvation, and her saints shall shout aloud for joy. There will I make the horn of David to bud. I have ordained a lamp for mine anointed. His enemies will I clothe with shame, but upon himself shall his crown flourish. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his habitation. This is my resting place forever. Here I will reside, for I have desired it. I will abundantly bless its provisions. I will satisfy its poor with bread. Its priests I will clothe with salvation, and its faithful will shout for joy. There I will cause a horn to sprout up for David. I prepared a lamp for my anointed one. His enemies I will clothe with disgrace, but on him his crown will gleam. If we go back to 2 Samuel, you'll find it recorded, the ark being brought in and David dancing wildly before the ark. Let me see if I can find the words here. Here we go. David danced before the Lord with all his might. That's from 2 Samuel 6, verse 14. And he'll even be rebuked for this by Michal, Saul's daughter. But he says, no, this is good what I'm doing. So often in these Psalms, as well as in our lives, we're feeling a disconnect. We're suffering. We're in pain. And we ask, as the psalmists often do, "Oh, great sacred, where are you? I'm here, I'm suffering. Where are you? Why aren't you helping me?" Sometimes we're just full of anger. We want retribution. We want vengeance. We're looking for the payback time. And once in a great while, and I don't think it needs to be once in a great while, but it typically is what it is. We feel that heart connection to the great sacred. As small as we are. And this is quite huge, right? Because, how big of a planet Earth would we need for you to be this big? We need this really huge globe for you to be this big. You're invisible. And that's just on Earth. We're so infinitesimally small. And many of us feel this connection to this great oneness. Not all the time. Maybe not often. Maybe very rarely. This psalm, I think, points to that ceremonial moment of connection. Here in 2025, we seem to have moved away from, or lost that connection that to the how we can ceremonially connect to the great sacred. Maybe in some traditions, maybe in some spiritual religious traditions it's strong, but it seems often pretty weak. I remember when I became a full-fledged Catholic. I was baptized Catholic as a baby, but I became a full-fledged Catholic in my early 20s. And I remember for quite a few years, usually when I would take the sacrament of the Eucharist, feeling that sense of that connection with the holy. I would sometimes be there near the end of the Mass after taking the Eucharist and just tears streaming down my cheeks. Ceremonially, for myself, I know visiting the Atlantic Ocean. For years, I would go almost every summer, and then there was a whole long period of time when I hardly ever made it to the Atlantic. And now, I guess the last few years, it's been close to almost every summer. And when I get to that Atlantic, and I see those waves coming in, and I get a little sense of the roundness of this planet, a little greater sense of that smallness of me, but still that me and we are included as part of the great it. And when I start to think of the length of time that those waves have been rolling in, it's very similar for me to the experience I had as a younger man with the Eucharist. And maybe very similar to what the Jewish people were experiencing as they did the procession. If that's indeed what happened, we don't know, but as some scholars think may have happened, this procession of the Ark 600 years before the time of Jesus. And I was looking up about the Ark today, and there's all sorts of theories that, it was hidden away before the temple was destroyed, or it's hidden in some cave, some holy of holies place that no one or very few people know about. You know, we of course had that with Raiders of the Lost Ark. We had a whole play with that story. And I think, okay, here's a story from over 2,500 years ago, or maybe a liturgy, a way of doing ceremony from over 2,500 years ago that is not active today. What's the point, Michael? I guess the point is, or at least part of the point is, picturing this king dancing with abandon. Can we imagine any world leader dancing with abandon today? So full of joy at connection with the sacred. A few years ago, I had an opportunity with a small group of people. We were doing an outdoor program, and I'll give credit to my friend John for part of this. I think Beth and John maybe came up with this idea that looking at something and then just saying, and that is enough. Like I'm looking right here and I could see the red geranium flowers in the pot. And that is enough. Or I could turn and I could see the candle flame. And that is enough. Or I can just feel, oh, sorry about that. I think I need to stop that. Oh good, somebody stopped it. Or I could just feel the wiggling of my toes and fingers. You could do that if you wish. And that is enough. Well, I explained about this idea of enoughness to this group, and I said, we're going to do a little practice. We're going to walk out, and there's just this little field area. There were some trees and bushes and some open field. I said, and I just invite you to look at things and just state what you see to yourself in your head, and then say, and that is enough. The sun shining on the green leaf. And that is enough. The water in the glass. And that is enough. And we went out for about a 7-minute walk, maybe a 10-minute walk. And this one young woman, I think in her 20s, we're just going, looking at bushes, birds, etc. And nature is ideal, of course, for this. And she came back and she just had tears streaming down her cheeks. Just as I might when I visit the ocean, or as I would have when I was a bit younger, when I was taking the Eucharist in the Catholic Mass. And she said, I never focus on the enoughness of it all. She said something like, it's all so incredible. It's so amazing. There's this flying animal with feathers that lands in a tree and sings. There's this little buzzing bee going to a flower and somehow going back and with its colony, with its hive, making honey. And there's the beauty of the flower and even the smell of that flower. It's immeasurable. I think one of the gifts of Buddhism is that invitation to enoughness. I also happen to believe that that's one of the invitations of Christianity. we are told that Jesus says, the kingdom of God is at hand. Right now. Not another 100 years. Right now. It's at hand. The kingdom. I know a lot of people don't like that language. I happen to like it. So whatever works for you or doesn't work for you. But like this incredible magnificence is here right now. And that which is here right now, that bird and that bee and the water in this cup and that flame and those flowers, it is connected to the water and bees and flowers that flourished 2,500 years ago when the Jewish people were singing this processional song. It's all part of one thing. And I so rarely have the eyes to see it. And therefore, I'm rather embarrassed because how could I show it to you if I'm not seeing it? But once in a while, I can get a glimpse, or a taste, or a smell, a whiff. And I know you can too, once in a while. And what happens if we give each other? What happens if we give each other those little hints that say the ark is with us? The great sacred is here. Let the tears flow. Let the Davidic dance begin. We're going to talk a little bit about Mark from chapter 10. But before we do, as we usually do for Fresh Green Blessings, we're going to have a little time of a little bit of movement. As I've mentioned many times here, both Ollie and I, my partner, we're both certified yoga instructors, so we sometimes integrate that into our Sacred Ground programming, and I've been integrating that into what we do here. You're welcome to sit back and watch, or you're welcome to join me. I'm just going to do a few little movements for a few minutes, and then we'll go into a little bit of the Mark chapter 10, the verses from the New Testament. I'll invite the bell to sound, and then we'll have some movement. Enjoy the sound of the bell in this moment. going to move a couple of things here. Create a little more space, hopefully. And let's see here. I think this is probably going to work. There we go. I think this is going to work. I hope. Great. So I have my mat with me, but you don't need a mat. But you're welcome to get down on the floor. And I invite you, if you wish, to go. We're going to go on all fours here. Take my beads off here for this part. And I invite you to have your palms, your hands right below your shoulders, and kind of a railroad track of your hands lining up with your legs. And we're going to do a little cat-cow where you breathe in and bend up and breathe out and bend down. Oh, and get that nice, bring that belly up, your belly button up toward your spine. Breathing in and breathing out. Nice little stretch here. Breathing in and breathing out. You might want to have an audible breath, like that ocean breath. Breathing in and out. Nice little articulation of the spine. In and out. See where I am? I guess I can be seen. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring the elbows down and put the elbows where the palms of the hands are. One, and then the other. And I'm going to bring the elbows forward a little bit and then start to lower the head, the forehead down toward the mat. Breathing in and out. Nice stretch on the lower back there. Feeling it in my shoulders too. Breathing in and out. One more time. Breathing in and out. Oh, it feels great in my upper back. One last time. I got to do that one more time. It feels so good. Breathing in and out. Now I'm going to bring my hands back. Kind of go back so that my bottom is resting on my legs. And now I'm going to bring my hands back this way and my head forward and get this nice stretch here. Breathing in and out. Oh, this feels so good on my back. Breathing in. Nice deep in and out. A couple more times. In and out. Imagine yourself breathing all the way into your back. Breathing in and out. One last time, breathing in and out. We'll go back up to all fours and get your knees spread same level as your ankles, and hips one way and head the other. Nice little stretch. And breathe out back to center. Into the other side. And out back to center. And we'll do that again. In. and out, in and out, and one last time, in and out. Nice long neck, shoulders separate from ears, in and out. And we'll stand up and we'll close with a little bit of, move the, so you can see me here. And we'll close with just a little bit of swishing back and forth of the upper body. Ah, feels good. Feels good to move. Nice. And you could do this at whatever pace you want. Just kind of let those arms be kind of loose and let them fly a little bit. Keep your hips mostly facing the front, as mine are. And a little out breath on each side. And we'll slow it down. And stillness. And hands, Anjala Mudra at the heart, prayer position. Excellent. Now gather things back up together here and bring our flower back and our candle back. Put the mic back where it belongs. Move my chair back over. And I think I'd like to have my beads again too. And that also, we're talking about this enoughness, and we're talking about the presence of the sacred. And my gosh, the joy of movement. The joy of just having this body and being able to move this body. I mean, I'm in my early 60s now, and I feel like I'm more connected with it now than I was, 7, 8 years ago. Being connected, being alive in this body. Absolutely key. Whew. I'm feeling the life energy flowing. I mean, I think of where I was at an hour ago when we started around 4 and where I'm at now. It's a very different place. I am going to invite the bell to sound, and then I will have 3 readings from Mark chapter 10 for us, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. Enjoy the bell. So we're going to have Mark chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. And you might recall, we're going to hear from James and John. And James and John were with Peter up on the mountain at the point of transfiguration. So these are kind of the 3 inner circle guys, as the story goes, of the 12. Peter's just been rebuked, get behind me, Satan, for when Jesus was talking about the passion and Peter was talking about trying to prevent it. And now we're going to have basically a rebuke of the other 2 of the 3 inner circle guys. So no accident, I think, that these 3 are pointed out and challenged. I'll start with the New Revised Standard Version, then I'll read the King James, and then as we have, I'll be reading the Sarah Rudin translation. And I'll do the bell in between each one. And one more time with the bell just to get myself centered. And as per usual, your invitation is not to concentrate on every word, but just to let the words roll over you. And I think there's something, for me, I'm finding value in this, reading different translations back to back to back. It's certainly adding richness for myself. I don't usually do it like in our Sunday services or with other groups that I lead other than this Fresh Green Blessings, but I might start incorporating it more because it just seems to have a certain power to it, just the slight word changes. Mark chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink. And with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, "You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as their rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many." The King James Version, Mark chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. And James and John, the sons of Zebedee, come unto him, saying, "Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire." And he said unto them, "What would ye that I should do for you?" They said unto him, "Grant unto us that we may sit, one on thy right hand and the other on thy left hand, in thy glory." But Jesus said unto them, Ye know not what ye ask. Can you drink of the cup that I drink of, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? And they said unto him, We can. And Jesus said unto them, Ye shall indeed drink of the cup that I drink of, and with the baptism that I am baptized withal shall ye be baptized. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them for whom it is prepared. And when the 10 heard it, they began to be much displeased with James and John. But Jesus called them to him, and saith unto them, Ye know that they which are accustomed to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and their great ones exercise authority upon them. But so shall it not be among you. But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister. And whosoever of you will be the chiefest of all, and whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be servant of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. And I'll have one more reading in just one moment. And we'll have one more reading. Gospel of Mark chapter 10 by Sarah Rudin. Chapter 10, verses 35 through 45. Now Iacobos and Ioannes, the son of Zebedios, approached and said to him, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask you to. And he said to them, What do you want me to do for you? And they said to him, Grant that we sit with you, one on your right side and one on your better side, in your glory. But Iesus said to them, You don't know what you're asking for. Can you drink from the drinking cup I drink from? And can you be baptized with the baptism with which I'm baptized? They said to him, We can. But Iesus said to them, The drinking cup I drink from, you'll drink from. And you'll be baptized with the baptism with which I'm baptized. But as for sitting on my right side or on my side with the blessed name, it's not mine to grant. No, those places belong to those they'd been prepared for. When they heard this, the other 10 grew upset at Iacobos and Ioannes. But Aesus called them over and said to them, "You know that in the other nations, those who look like the leaders lord it over them, and that their great men impose top-down authority on them. But it isn't that way among you. Instead, whoever among you wants to be great is to be the attendant of the rest of you. And whoever among you wants to be first is to be everyone else's slave. In fact, even the Son of Mankind didn't come to have attendants, but to be an attendant, and to give his life as the price to set a lot of other people free." There's a couple things I'd like to note about this. As Frederick Grant says in his interpretation of Mark chapter 10, this is the third time where Jesus announces his passion, that he will suffer and die. And that right afterwards, right after he announces this, there's this similar pattern regarding the conditions for discipleship. So the first time after he announces about his passion, right afterwards in Mark 8, chapter 8, verses 34 through 35, it says, "And when he had called the people unto him with his disciples also, he said unto them, Whosoever will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel's, the same shall save it." And similarly in chapter 9, after again Jesus announces that he will be killed, here, chapter 9, verses 35 through 37. "And he sat down and called the 12 and saith unto them, If any man desire to be first, the same shall be last of all and servant of all. And he took a child and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said unto them, Whosoever shall receive one of such children in my name receiveth me. And whosoever shall receive me receiveth not me, but him that sent me." As the interpreter says, it can be no accident that every time when Jesus talks about his own death, he then goes on to say, what is required. And he gives this picture that is such a strange picture, because again, I'll share these words. The interpreter says, these guys are still thinking in terms of a battle. And Jesus is the king, and who's going to sit on his right and his left. And they're thinking not in a spiritual way necessarily, but they're thinking of this kind of this revolution. But this is not about pride. ambition, and conquest. This is about service. To share from the interpretation of Lukach, this is a violent reversal of Earth's measurement of greatness. This is the inauguration of an upside-down world. The whole social pyramid is inverted. This is not about power as we have been traditionally told. You know, we forget when we hear the word minister, because we tend to revere the minister. To minister to one, to serve, to be a servant. Our entire world, the secular world, politics, the corporate world, etc., it is the antithesis of all this. It's about holding power and wielding power. It's about keeping those below you under your thumb. We have a nice house. We have a mortgage. And I looked at, and I know this, but I hadn't thought about it for a while. I looked at the mortgage statement the other day. And of all the money that we have to pay each month, and how little of it goes toward the principal, and how much of it goes toward the interest. So that if we're paying, let's say, $1,000 on this mortgage, maybe $50 is being reduced from the principal. Imagine if you had a friend and you borrowed money from a friend. And imagine if you had an agreement to pay him back with interest. Seems fair. But if the interest was what you paid off first, so that let's say you owe the friend $10,000 and you send him $100 this month. And then he says, oh yes, now that's $10 less that you owe me. I taught 3rd grade and 4th grade. If I explained this system to my students. I think they would all agree it was wrong. Some of them might even say it was evil. And that's the way almost everything, not just the banks, almost everything in the corporate world and in the political world is designed to squeeze as much as possible and to give as little as possible. The bank leader does not say, I am your servant. I am your slave. The bank leader says, you are my servant. You are my slave. What a radical message Jesus was giving 2,000 years ago. And we wonder why he has to repeat it again and again, and we wonder why his disciples aren't getting it. Because it is so outside of the ways we think. And of course, we could look at church structures today. And we can ask how many of those church leaders are truly our servants. In 1931, my grandfather died. My grandmother was a widow from Slovakia with 7 kids. She spoke very little English. It was the Great Depression. My grandmother and grandfather owned a home, or at least they had a mortgage on a home. It was a time before the unions, and I think the steel mill gave my grandmother something like $1,000 to raise her 7 kids on for the rest of their lives. 2 oldest kids quit school and immediately got jobs. And then there was the bank. I believe the banker's name was Mr. DeSalvo. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's the right name. This was in Youngstown, Ohio, 1930s. He happened to speak a few different languages, including Italian, a lot of Italians in Youngstown, and Slovak, a lot of it's Slovak people. And he spoke to my grandmother. And he said, Mrs. Cassoni, we're going to make a little adjustment to your mortgage. And for the next few years, your mortgage will be $1 per month. That was in 1931. When I was a little boy in the 1960s, when I was a teenager in the 1970s, we'd often go about a mile away to visit my grandma, who was still living in that same house. I heard that this Mr. DeSalvo used to go out on weekends and spend time alone in the woods. I don't know if he was a religious man. But from where I sit, knowing that he did this not just for my grandmother, but for so many widows, many men died in the mills at that time. And goodness knows whatever other good things he did. I do believe that he was truly, whatever his beliefs may or may not have been, I believe that he was truly one who was following the teachings of the Master. He was being a servant leader. Here it is, 2025. We all know there's much wrong in our world. There are great tensions in our country. There's great corporate greed in our world. That greed is not separate from the great pain that our beautiful planet Earth is suffering. The climate change, the challenges we're all facing. Jesus' teaching, which he repeats again and again in the Gospel of Mark, inviting us not to be worried about if we're sitting on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, not inviting us into manipulative power, but inviting us to be servants, to utilize whatever power we have for good, for benefit, to minister to others. This, to me, is the teaching of the Christ, the teaching of the Buddha. And in my belief system, it's the teaching of God. A challenging teaching. Maybe we can't do it perfectly, but can we please try to move towards truly being servants in service to our greater family, the greater earthen family of plants and animals and minerals, the greater human family. And maybe this is not disconnected from that earlier Psalm 132, recognizing that the kingdom of God is at hand. That there's much that is absolutely magnificent if we can just open our eyes and see it. And maybe that can help us to figure out how to be a part of this great, magnificent whole. Dear Lord, please guide us in that. Please help us to add to the good. Please help us to be watchful of our own egos, our own arrogance. Please help us to listen to each other, to listen to the children, to listen to Mother Earth, to listen to those who are suffering, to listen to those who are oppressed. Please help us, in the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, to water beneficial seeds for the benefit of all. Peace and amen, and amen, and amen. Thank you for joining us for Fresh Green Blessings. It is truly my hope that this has watered some beneficial seeds, and I hope I have the opportunity to continue on this journey with you all in the fall of 2025, in September. Peace and amen. And thank you, Great Sacred. Help us to keep waking up.